Hi, I'm Antonio Centeno, the founder of Real Men, Real Style. Today, I'm going to be giving style advice to the young man who is just starting his journey. Okay, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. By doing that, these videos will come right to you. In addition, if you like this, if you find it useful, I would appreciate it if you would like it down below. Feel free to leave a comment, as I try to get back to as often, as many people as I can. It's kind of hard sometimes, but I love seeing the comments and I read every single one. And last but not least, if you haven't grabbed our free 47-page ebook, what are you waiting for? It's awesome. Okay. I got a couple questions, both of them from young men, and so I'm going to try to address them both here with some bigger overarching answers. So, hi Antonio, I'm a 17-year-old man, about 6'5", 195 pounds. Due to a recent growth spurt, everything I own is too small. I'm clueless as to what to do because I've never been taught how to dress. Can you help me? And the other one is, I'm 15 years old, I live in Australia, and I'm skinny and tall, and I want to know if you have any suggestions for me on what to wear. I want to look manly, but I don't want to look ridiculous. Can you help me, please? He's also asking about wallets, and can I help him find a manly wallet? Okay, so this is a bigger issue, and I see this with a lot of younger men, especially younger men who have no role model or nobody showing them how to dress. And perhaps they come from a single, they've got a mom raising them, or they have a father who he's focusing on other things. He's not focusing on helping his son into the world of men's style and understanding how important it is that we put our best foot forward. So the first thing I'm going to say to these young men is focus on building you. And this sounds, it's totally non-style related, but if you've watched any of my other videos, I talk about how style is not the end-all be-all. There is no such thing as manly clothing or a manly wallet. There is only the man who owns these items, and by himself being whatever you define it to be as a man, whatever you define manliness to be. But through that, he basically, the clothing and the items that he owns, they allow him to show it's kind of like and I've used the analogy of a diamond and how you've got to polish a diamond, and that's all clothing and all these accessories that I talk about. They really are. They're polish on a diamond, and they help you shine. So in both of these cases, they sound like very young men who are just starting their journey. And if they were anything like me, I was incredibly, shy. I never had, I look back on high school and I really regret, unfortunately, a lot of things in terms of especially, being able to talk to girls. I could not do it. I was just horrible in high school. I wasn't confident in myself as a young man. I was really thin, very skinny, and I just felt that, I felt like a weakling. I felt like people could push me around. I did get pushed around a bit, growing up, and it's one of those things that you carry with you, and at this point, that needs to be your focus. And I know, clothing is a part of that, and I'll give you a few tips on this, but I would say first focus on challenging yourself. Because to this day, I'm still not a huge guy. I go to the gym. I try to stay in good shape. But most men, I think, when it comes down to it, I'm average in size. So probably half of the United States is bigger than me. And if I measured myself by that, if I tried to measure myself in that way, I'm always going to fail. But I've come to the realization through experience, through pushing myself, through challenging myself, through taking on responsibility, that I know who I am and I know what kind of a man I am, and I'm not afraid to, be who I am. And so the clothing I choose, it becomes much easier once the inner core, once you've worked on who you are, then choosing clothing, believe it or not, becomes a lot easier because you're able to choose what you like, choose what complements you, and go forward. So whether you're a mechanic, whether you're a banker, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a plumber, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you understand who you are, then you can put on, your uniform, or you can put on, whatever your uniform may be, and you're going to feel and you're going to look good. Okay, so let me see. Push yourself, seek responsibility. Okay, so the next thing for these young men is, I would say, find a mentor. And it would be great if it would be somebody local, but I understand you may be in a small town, you may be in an area where nobody's dressing in a manner that you respect. So subscribe to a magazine. I've recommended Esquire. GQ is not that bad. There's a number of these magazines. I mean, Men's Health. Look through pretty much any magazine you get and look at the gentleman and say, you know, I like this guy's style. I was looking at the CEO. I believe it was it. Is it Twitter? I think it was the CEO of Twitter, and it wasn't Twitter. I'm kicking myself here. Maybe it was Groupon. It was one of these internet companies. It wasn't Facebook, I'll tell you that. But in any case, it was one of those startups out in San Francisco, and it had a gentleman, and he was wearing a dress shirt, and he had a hoodie over the dress shirt. Not my style, but I looked at the overall picture of him. He had a pair of dark denim on. He had the hood. It was actually a nice hoodie, like something it looked like it cost actually maybe, you know, it was Italian or something. It was a more stylish looking sweater / hoodie. And I was looking at that style put together. And again, it wasn't me, but I was like, you know, I can see this working for the right man. And it was making me reconsider my stance on the typical hoodies I see around here. But find a picture like that. Find a few of these styles. Tear those out of the magazine and say, you know, I'm going to imitate this. I'm going to find a way to put this outfit together for perhaps a lot cheaper, and I'm going to try it. I'm going to experiment. Because number 3, once you've found people to imitate, you need to experiment. You need to not be afraid. And this goes back to part 1 when I talked about having confidence in yourself, because this is the point in your life when you want to try new things. You want to experiment. I mean, I'm not into goth and all that stuff, and I think, you know, guys painting their fingernails and stuff like that is a little bit out there. But I would have to say that those guys have a bit of confidence to be able to dress in that manner, to be able to walk into their school or wherever they're going and to know that people are staring at them. But they're learning a valuable lesson. They're learning the ability to identify themselves with a group of individuals, because you'll notice that you teenagers that dress that way usually stick together, and they have a very deep connection with each other. And I can tell you, as a man who cares about his appearance, whenever I run into another well-dressed gentleman, I can tell there's a little bit of an instant bit of respect that we both know that we put in the extra time to polish our shoes, to throw on a sports jacket, even though we're just walking around Wausau, Wisconsin, that we went the extra mile. And so we give each other just a little bit more credibility. Now, you can destroy that by, you know, sounding like an idiot or not knowing what you're talking about, but you can see where I'm going. So the last thing I'm going to say for young men is that number 4, they need to learn to be industrious. So you need to be resourceful. It's at this point which you're going to be picking up skill sets, and this kind of goes to experimenting. But I would say for the taller men, it sounds like you're tall and skinny, it's going to be hard for you to find shirts that fit you properly. Learn to sew. It's not that difficult, and you're at a point where you could go ask people to give you a few extra tips, ask for an old sewing machine, walk into a seamstress's shop and see if she's got something that you can, some old, you know, shirts that are throwaways that you can experiment darting on. You pick up these skill sets, and they're going to be useful. I mean, many young men, they learn how to change oil on a vehicle, which I learned. I mean, I grew up with horses and kind of almost like on a ranch. Not a very nice one. I mean, it wasn't the nicest ranch, but you know, we did have horses. We had lots of animals, and it was something I learned a lot about that. Nowadays, I don't have a lot of animals, but the skill sets I learned about fixing, you know, my aunt's truck, fixing, you know, actually, you know, delivering a foal, you know, things like that. I don't know where I'm going to need that again, but it was something that it was an incredible experience. I learned a lot, and moving forward, I've seen that stuff happen. I can take that and move on. And I'm not saying that you need to follow, you know, and become some type of a seamstress or a tailor. I'm just simply saying, realizing that you're a human being, that you've got a lot of potential, and that you can learn to do anything. And once you pick up this skill, I can tell you that I get emails from guys all the time wishing that they knew how to fix this. And if you know how to do some basic sewing, the best part is whenever you go looking at tailors or seamstresses, you're going to be able to say, oh, I can look at this guy's work and he does, you know, really shoddy work. I'm going to move on. And you can tell that by the way he does his stitching. And perhaps, you know, it only took you a few hours to learn this, but okay, guys, I gave you 4 tips. I think I went into a lot of detail on them. But I think this is an important subject because there's a lot of young men out there who are seeking guidance, and I feel that they're worrying about really kind of the smaller things, and they need to look at the big picture, which is focusing on themselves, improving their confidence, and then experimenting, going out there, finding a mentor, and being industrious. Okay, this has been Antonio Centeno with Real Men, Real Style. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.